Hey, empowered badass breeders. What happens when this actually just got brought up in our private group? So first and foremost, I guess, if you're not a part of our private Facebook group, please comment in this video and we'll watch for you and we'll make sure that you're connected, because if you are using some part of our program, it's a really safe, great place to seek help and guidance and share your wisdom and advice as well. And this was just posted and I thought, gosh, I sometimes forget, and I'm sorry, not everybody knows everything, and I don't mean it that way, but our new breeders may have not encountered something before that us seasoned breeders, we wouldn't think twice about it, and not in a disrespectful way. But a new breeder had a litter. It was her first experience with a puppy that was already decomposing when the puppy was born, and so it's really, really alarming. So first of all, just a warning, a disclaimer that you may not want to watch this video, but unfortunately if you're a breeder you may want to, because at some point, if you breed long enough, this could happen to you. What happens is, if a puppy does die in utero and it's not during the birth, it's a day before the birth or 2 days before the birth, they do start to decompose, and it's a very unsettling, disturbing experience. Because so here's some common things that would let you know that unfortunately this puppy has passed away long before labor even started. The skin will start to peel from the puppy. There'll be a lot of discolored or black fluid, because the body's starting to decompose and it's letting off all of the decomposition gases and whatnot. So it's just not a pleasant sight at all. Why does this happen? There's so many things that we could surmise. We could say, well, maybe it was something when she got pregnant, or something during pregnancy, she was exposed to something, or some sort of trauma. You'll never know. And I've had these puppies have necropsies, and it's like they have no idea. So like at the end of the day, I feel like it's something we have to accept. We can drive ourselves bonkers trying to figure out what happened so it doesn't happen again, but I can pretty much tell you with 100% certainty, you're not going to know, you're not going to find out the answer. So it just happens. For whatever reason, that puppy passed away before he or she got out, essentially, and they start to decompose. Here are just some things that could trigger, that could happen though once this happens. Because of the decomposition, it could affect a puppy next to that puppy, and it could cause that puppy to pass away and then start to decompose. So that could happen. So you could have 2 in a row. They may not be delivered back to back, because remember, the uterus is in a U-horn shape. So like if you have a puppy from the left come, and then from the right, and then the left. So if the puppy was decomposed in the left, one could come from the right that wasn't next to it, and then the next one that's coming from the left side of the uterus could also be decomposing and pass away. So it can go from puppy to puppy. Typically though, I haven't seen more than 2 pass away and decompose next to each other, because the mom will then go into labor, because it's the body's way of protecting now the mom and the rest of the litter from expiring. So I've never seen more than 2. If anybody else has, let me know. But it can then also trigger labor. The problem with that is it can also trigger premature labor. For some reason, this puppy passed away and the puppies just aren't viable yet. You could get a whole litter of puppies that aren't, they're not going to survive because they're too premature, plus puppies that have already been decomposing. That at least gives you the answer. Well, why did this dog go into premature labor? Well, because it was trying to save itself. Typically, you don't have to worry about the mom. Once everything's expelled and out of her system, and then the body still flushes, the uterus is still bleeding and it's still flushing its system, we haven't had any concerns or issues of the mom getting an infection. But of course, our after delivery protocol of taking care of the mom, temperature checks I would do twice daily, just watching, making sure her appetite's good, bright shiny eyes, her gums aren't tacky and dry, looking for dehydration. So just watch for those symptoms, and if you see anything out of the ordinary, then of course act quickly. So it's just unfortunately part of being at the mercy of Mother Nature, and things just happen. So it's really disheartening. It's really hard to see. It's even more difficult if your children are part of the delivery. I know I've gone live with deliveries a long time ago. I used to go live a lot, and the problem is, and I'd always have to keep saying during my live video, like, please understand, disclaimer, I don't know what's happening, I don't know what's coming next, I don't know what we're going to see. I mean, there could be a deformed puppy, there could be a deceased puppy, and that's our real life. We live it. We're sitting there living it every single day. Like, I have to sit there and tell myself every single time, like, just be prepared. And the most important thing is you have to really check yourself and make sure you're not pushing any of your emotional energy onto your mom during this time. Be matter of fact. The mom doesn't, and she's probably not going to want anything to do with the puppy. She knows right away. I've never seen a mom try to clean them or have anything to do with them. They know it's nothing but, unfortunately, waste, and it's not healthy for them to eat, but you never know. They could try to. So it's removing that puppy right away, being matter of fact, let mama know you're doing great, everything is fine, focus on the puppies you have, and you just have to be that center of energy, of positivity and confidence for your mom, so she can continue through and not get stuck with what you just saw and how traumatized you just are. So I get that, but we have to deal with those emotions later and just focus on our mom and live puppies, hopefully, that you have also with those experiences. So it can happen. It does happen. It just happened to one of our members. I'm so sorry. It's traumatizing. It's just one of those really difficult things of being a breeder. Thanks for riding shotgun with me today. And we're right in the middle of live classes, so if you haven't jumped on yet, we're meeting every Wednesday and Thursday. We've got 2 down, 2 more to go. You can still join, so jump on my website at badassbreeder.com. I still have it at the steep discounted rate. You can go back and watch the previous 2 that's been recorded, and they're already accessible, and you can jump in for the next 2 that are live. So Wednesdays we do the mentorship class, and Thursdays are the puppy evaluation class. So we have 2 more sessions live left, and of course you'll have access to the recordings for as long as you want and watch them at your convenience. Let's talk about deposits. Should you take them? When should you take them? How much should it be? Do you refund them? Here's just what I've learned. A deposit technically, legally has to be refunded if they don't purchase whatever they were putting a deposit on. So, I mean, you can look at it 2 ways. You could stop calling it a deposit and call it a reservation fee and have them sign something that says this reservation fee is non-refundable because you are taking a spot on a list for a puppy. You're taking up, you know, my ability to plan correctly for how many puppies are sold. I mean, only breeders will understand this. So like the time and energy we put into getting someone on a list, and then we're counting on that person buying a puppy, and we breed accordingly to our people on a waiting list, right? So technically you could call it a reservation fee and have them sign that they understand it is non-refundable, whether they decide to get a puppy or not. So if they choose to not get a puppy with you, not refundable. Now then, of course, it's up to your discretion if you didn't have a litter in time, or you didn't have the litter that they wanted, or whatever. Like, there's so many different reasons, and of course you can always choose to refund. The difficulty with deposits is, I mean, it's the same thing. We're just talking about changing a word, reservation deposit. So at the end of the day, I just have to look at it like, depending on the client, of course, depending on my role in them getting or not getting a puppy, and depending on if they're chronic tire kickers. So they're constantly, chronically getting on a list, getting off a list, getting on a list, getting off a list, getting on a list, on, off, on, off. Guess what? Non-refundable. Thank you. Whatever. Your reservation fee is non-refundable. They've taken up so much time. They've taken up multiple spots on lists that and sometimes then I had a puppy left over after go home day because they pulled off on go home day, and then that's not fair to that puppy. They should have went home. And then, you know, it does create so much more time than to find a new owner and go through everything with them again. Give them time to review all the curriculum videos, the evaluation, vetting, phone calls, a Zoom meeting if needed. Like, we have to start all over unless we have people on a wait list, which with the market, what it's been the last year or two is just not as common. It can be, and we can turn around and sell that puppy because people have already been watching and waiting and hoping someone would pull off, but that's not always the case. So I don't know. I refund deposits, reservation fees, whatever you want to call them, more often than not, because for me, it's not worth the hassle. It's not worth one bad review. It's not worth them going and saying, you know, I'm trying to scam them or steal their money, or I'm refusing to return something that's theirs. It's not worth it for me. And I also have found, even if the client was difficult and I still refunded, I have found that then they will and can still go and speak highly of you, and that has brought clients to me. Like, me refunding them brought other clients to me. So it's still just a business model, a treat others how you would want to be treated, and being really fair and reasonable. So that's kind of my compass, my guide. Again, if it's a very difficult client, if they took home a puppy and returned it within 24 hours, you know what? No, I'll refund everything but the reservation fee. So I do stand my ground on some things, and other times I just don't. It's just not worth it's unfortunate, but it's also a business, and it's also word of mouth, and referrals for me are one of the most important things for my business. So walking that fine line of this is not fair or this is fair, this is what I would want, this is what I would expect, and looking at things, you know, taking a step back and looking at things is how I handle reservation fees, deposits, whatever you want to call it. I used to take reservation fees even if it was a year out, 2 years out. I no longer do that because of the market. So now I don't collect any money until I have a litter and they are committing to that specific litter with this specific go home date. So I just put people on a wait list with their email, and then we'll email out when we have a litter that fits their needs or time frame. And then once I have the puppies, and usually we wait about a week to make sure, you all know what can happen within the first week, make sure I have enough puppies for them or wherever they would be. And then we contact everybody on the wait list, and it will go in order when they contacted me, but then they have to place a reservation fee within 48 hours or 72 hours or whatever you want. Otherwise, we'll fill in other people that are waiting to hear from us. So those are changes I have made. I know those of you who take my mentorship class, that's not the way I've always done things, and I've talked very openly about that. That is a big change that I have made now. I'm like, I don't want your money until there's a puppy in the nursery from a litter that you want. Like, of course, I don't know which puppy. My clients don't select until the day they take them home, after vet clearances and after the puppy evaluations, so that I'm giving them as much knowledge and information as possible, and also honoring the puppy in the process so that they understand what the puppy needs and wants as well. So none of that happens until go home day. It can be a little risky. It can be a little anxious producing because you just don't know, and your clients can feel a little anxiety about that, but being able to walk them through why I do what I do and why that's important, and making sure they understand it's just as much for them as it is for the puppy, based on what they need and what they want too. Like, I don't want to blindly have them pick a puppy at 3 weeks old, and then what if the puppy dies? And what if they were top on the list and now there's no more puppies? So they went from top pick to no puppy for you in this litter. So I just find that nobody picks a puppy till they're literally ready to go home. I know a lot of you do many different things, and ultimately finding what works for you, your clientele, the clients that align with you within your breeding practices, all of that take into account. There's not one right way. So it's figuring out what works best for you. I'm just sharing what I have done, and how I've changed and why I've changed the way I take deposits, reservation fees, whatever you want to call it, and why. So there you go. share with us, share with especially new breeders trying to navigate this market that was not the same 2 years ago. Like, that's just not the reality. Share how you handle client inquiries, taking deposits or reservation fees. Do you even take them? Some people won't even take them. It's like full payment when they pick up the puppy. Some let people choose really early. I caution against that, again, because that puppy may not be alive at 8 weeks old. Things happen. That's just unfortunate, and I don't want people to be pulled off a list when they were first, second pick due to a tragedy or something out of our control. So I do caution that. I know some of you still do that, and most of the time it will work out, but those times that it doesn't, it can be really, really difficult to navigate for you and for the client. So I try to avoid some of those situations that put me in very difficult emotional and moral and feeling like I'm responsible for someone else's emotions and feelings as well, while trying to manage and mitigate my own with my own dog and losing a puppy. So trying to keep things as clear as possible, like as much clarity and as clean as possible is my goal after doing this for so long. Trying to manage the least amount of cleaning up tragedy, I guess, keeping things as clean as possible. Anyway, share with us what you do. Yeah, I read in the private group too, so many different things are working for you. So let's share with everybody. And that way, if you're having trouble navigating, what do you do? Do you return? Do you refund? When do you take deposits? Do you take deposits? Let's give everybody a lot of different options, and then they can choose what fits and works best for them. This is getting quite a lot of attention. There was a dog breeder that was killed in his home, and in our private group, I know a lot of people were talking about that. Like, it's a really difficult situation, and I just wanted to pop in here and say I get it. I know. There's no other business really that you give people your personal information where they come into your home. And with all of the hate and everything surrounding breeders, you never know. So all I can say is this is what I've done to try to safeguard myself, is no one's allowed on property unless they paid a deposit. And the only time they're allowed on property is when they pick up their puppy. And that's when they get the address. So, you know, and people that have had a problem with that, I'm like, well, then I'm not the breeder for you. I'm sorry. Like, I have to take precautions to protect my dogs and my family and myself. So we do a virtual visit on Zoom when the puppies are 4 weeks old. We send a ton of videos. They can Zoom with me personally. I've tried to safeguard as much as possible so that people aren't getting scammed, because unfortunately, so many people use my information to try to scam people as well. So it's just a really difficult thing to navigate. And all I can say is people have to do their research too. So, and understand that we're not just we're not an open property. We're not an open farm. We're not an open pet store. Like, it's just not that way. This is our home. This is where our children live. This is our private property. So it's a really difficult balance. And I know it really kind of shook people to see that, you know, a breeder was killed by giving the address and someone going into their home. And I will say personally, I haven't shared this before, but when I was traveling quite a bit and speaking at, especially back east, like in Missouri and Ohio and whatnot, and I had to travel with private security for a few of those trips because I was getting legit death threats, and it was scary, and it's kind of alarming to think about that we are a target just for what we do. So I don't know. I totally agree with so many of you that you don't give your address. I think we shouldn't feel bad for that. I think this needs to change. I know I was a real big advocate about transparency and being open and let people come on property and everything, but it's just, that's not the world we live in anymore. Like, that's just the reality. Things have changed and we have to change with it. So my advice to you is use video more, use Zoom meetings. They can meet, you can Zoom, you can FaceTime any client, be like, here I am, here's my puppies, you know, they can see live. Put that on your website, like, hey, look, you're not allowed on property until, or even if you don't want them on your property until go home day and you meet them somewhere else, there's going to have to be some level of trust, and I think we can build that by a lot of communication, a lot of videos, and the option and ability for Zoom and FaceTime and whatever you want to use for communicating with your clients, so they can see that this is real. And I think that's important too, because there's so many people that have been scammed. So I get both sides, I do, but I think this is a safe and respectful compromise for both buyers and breeders, so that everybody feels protected, the buyer and the breeder. It's just crazy, crazy, crazy times, and hang in there. That's, I guess, all I can say is don't let this spook you too much. Crazy things happen, but there are definitely ways that we can safeguard ourselves and our property and our dogs and our family, as well as ensure that our clients feel comfortable and confident that they're not getting scammed and that we are who we are. Anybody watching this, for clients, when you're buying a puppy, please do your due diligence. There's nothing I can do to control people that take my logo, my name, they start their own web page, they start their own social media, and they just take my stuff. Like, I can't stop that. So I'm really fortunate that a lot of people have emailed me on my real email and been like, hey, look, is this you? So you know, for us, like, I will absolutely FaceTime, Zoom. That's it. Be really careful about social media pages, period. Do your due diligence, talk to the breeder, get video verification as well, so that we can make sure everybody's protected and safe in this process of purchasing a puppy. Thanks for riding shotgun with me today. Bye.